Hi, Manju.
Hi.
So, you've had for a while this experience of a felt sense, but also noticing that this felt sense that you might feel very specifically in your body, in your your experience, is not just about you, but is about something larger.
hmm Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. Let me say, yeah, a little bit about maybe I wouldn't say the first time, but when that became more clear to me, that experience, normally, very familiar to me. I might feel something inside of myself that feels uncomfortable, and I thought, what's wrong? What's wrong with me, or what do I need? What do I need to pay attention to, or that's somehow to do with me and my emotional world. But as I sat with it, it became clear to me like, oh, what doesn't feel right isn't really to do with me. It's to do with what's happening in the world. I can't remember what was happening at the time. There's always something happening in the world, right? Maybe it was elections or some big disaster, or I can't remember exactly. But the strong sense came of, oh, what I hold in here, this discomfort I hold inside of myself wasn't about me, if you like. It was about this bigger environment I was aware of, participating in,
Mm-hmm.
conscious of. And that came as quite an insight. Like, oh, I feel that too. I don't just feel things about me and my whatever relationships with my family or my history. This is a big thing I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where it started. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the context is in a way um, you have that mindfulness that
hmm
allows you to feel inside something,
Yeah,
and that something
that's
you
right.
feel inside is something troubling me, and so to inquire,
Exactly.
what is
Exactly.
it that I'm dealing with? And more
That's
often
right.
than not, we're accustomed to thinking in terms of mindfulness, psychology, to say, well, what
Yeah,
is it that's happening in my relationship with people or with what I'm doing, or
that's right.
and in that case, a realization that it's not just about, in a way, your past history or your psychological makeup or your
hmm
relationships, but it's really about what's happening in the world at large that you're
Yeah,
perceiving that way.
that's right. And I think this is uh, something very fundamental happening, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, like it points to something very true or something. It's hard to put it into words, but yeah, that's right. And of course, many of us feel this, not just in the focusing world, in the activism world, in social justice. People have this feeling that something's not right. You know, and I'm sure that they feel that inside themselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe that's a good place to think for a moment
Mm.
about the possibility that sometimes we feel something and we don't have that idea of thinking, hey, it may not just be about me, but it may be my relationship with the world. And
Mm.
it's kind of a sense of something's not right. And in a way, to welcome that
Mm. Mm.
as something that's really worth exploring.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Right, yeah, and worth exploring in more. Yeah, that's right. More than just I don't know, reacting from it. Now I have to fight for something. I'm not saying fighting is wrong. Fighting might be the right response, but it's like, what is going on in there? What's precisely is this sense we have, this discomfort? What's it about? And what's wanted? And there's always something, more to it. And I think that helps us also to find some steps. What do I do next? What do I do next with this feeling that something's not right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That I
So,
think so. Saying about the detail of it is important here, which is what mindfulness and focusing has to offer. Like, looking, being curious about what exactly is happening.
yeah, so you're straddling a line where you're on the one hand saying this is not about jumping to what do I do next,
Yeah.
and this is about exploring, see the more that comes up.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is not looking for the more as an escape from action.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This isn't about. There's definitely some sense of action that comes from, for me, that comes from this awareness.
Yeah.
And the action could be very small. It's not necessarily a big thing, but there is some sense of. But that comes from really feeling like what would be a right step for me in this place, in this life, in this my context, my community, because there's so much going on in the world, and it's very easy to become overwhelmed, or I can't do anything. But I think there is something that we can tap into. What can I do here in my life? What step can I make that will contribute to that?
Yeah. And very important that it's so easy to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's right.
So the staying with it is a grounding.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it might make sense at this point to share a specific example to show how that might unfold.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is some. I guess it's an example of this process of a small step that came for me from this.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time I've had like a passion for the environment, and more specifically like climate change recently. But it goes back a long way to acid rain back in whenever it was 80s, and for a long time. But I never really found a way of expressing it very clearly. This fairly recently, like, what step can I make to kind of say a bit more about what I really care about, to give voice to this? So rather than hiding it away and like, I don't want to cause trouble or upset anybody. That's kind of my previous way of being. Like, how can I give voice to this love that I have of the planet, let's say? And I set up a kind of practice for myself. Okay, when I feel something that I want to share, I'll share it on social media. It's a small thing, but there are people I care about and people whose opinions I care about, whether they like me or not like me. So it was a kind of testing ground. Can I really say what's really meaningful to me and put it out there? Give it to my family, give it to my friends. Speak out. This is really about speaking out. When previously I didn't. So it's a small step, but I'm not demonstrating on the streets, although I do that sometimes. But I am giving voice to what I really care and value about. Care about and value. So, that was a step, and continues to be to be a sort of place where I can. This is what Jen Lin, developer focusing, talks about. Find a place you can practice. Make small steps that make a difference. So you do it, and then you feel what happens, and you do it, and you feel what happens, and it's okay to express myself. So I'm not sure if that's the example you were looking for, but that's what came to me.
No, it's a great start. I think I want to ask you for more. But what I really like about this one is actually something where we might meet people with, in a way, in giving this example, you're giving an example of a small step. And
that's right.
You're noticing, here I am, somebody who normally would err on the side of not expressing myself for all kinds of reasons. And then coming into touch with that sense of, I want to express myself, and I'm going to, to pay more attention to this. And so that's a perfect example of a small step, as opposed to describing this, from one day to the next. You became this firebrand.
Yeah. That's right. That's good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. And I can feel it carrying on. It's not like I've done that now. Yeah.
And you're putting within the context of that quote of Jen Lin of just as you do it, the more you do it, the more you become familiar with the practice, and you're able to express more.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it keeps on unfolding. That's right. And there's a kind of element of risk, if you like, when we take these little steps. We have to go beyond our comfort zone, let's say. But it feels good. It feels alive. Like, oh right, finally I'm giving life to this care that I've had.
Yeah.
So that feels very good. Yeah.
And so, again, it's very nice you're pointing out the element of risk, So even though we're talking about a small step, and to some people it might be something that's really nothing, but for you, it is a step.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
And
right.
when it is a step, no matter how small it may seem to some people, it is a step because it has an element of risk.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe is there a way to describe that sense, that experience of when you are able to shift from the old default mode of better not express myself, or something of that nature, to it's worth the risk, or what happened inside?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How would I describe it? It's sort of, I guess it's some kind of letting go of some smaller kind of me. Like it doesn't matter if people think I'm wrong or they argue or I get something back, or what's most important is sharing this this deep value. Like, and that's the most important thing. Everything else can kind of not be it's not unimportant. It's important to acknowledge it, but not let that get in the way. Not let those parts of us that might be embarrassed or. So I'm not pushing those away. But okay, yeah, some part of me might be worried about what my brother thinks, or some part of me might be worried about what this friend thinks of this. That's fine. You can be there. And this is too important not to say. So, and then I guess as I say that, I can feel it's like a kind of fire in a way, like a kind of feeling of life and wanting to emerge, so it feels good. That's the other thing. So it feels good.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I have an almost physical sense of it, as in a way taking a step. So there is the old Manju feeling and looking at his brother or such and such a friend, and very influenced by that sense of what will this person think about it.
Exactly.
And then taking a step, so that from that different place there is a different perspective, and the brother or the friends have not disappeared, but then there's something else that you're looking at that's more important, so that you now have access to both, and that new perspective overshadows the other one. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. A new perspective, a new sense of oneself, even. It feels different. That's right.
Right. So it's not just a new perspective, but from that place you have a different sense of yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. A feeling like even now, becoming taller or something, or bigger, or like I can do this. I can. So it's a different. Yeah, more than just a perspective, I suppose. It's just almost like a feeling in the body or something.
Yeah.
How to stand in the world. How to be in the world.
And so you're talking about standing. You're talking about that sense of feeling taller. So that's the opposite in a way of being compacted and of hunkering down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that hunkering down. Let's say that comes from my own history. About whatever, how I am with people and not expressing myself. But it also touches this thing of overwhelm in the world. It's easy to do that with all that, isn't it? There's so much suffering and so much that's not right. We can kind of go, I don't want to know. And that's understandable. And so there's some connection there. It's not just my own history, I suppose. That hunkering down is in response to. It's also into what comes in at us from the world.
Yeah. So in a way, not being myopic and just thinking about this is my history, but seeing it also as related to what's happening in the world and the influence of being in the world we live in. How it influences us and may contribute to that experience of not standing up or hunkering down or being compacted.
Very much so. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So I really like that description that you have. That's a very great experience of the felt sense of that physicality of the compacted versus the standing taller, that
That's
sense
right.
of opening up, expanding. And that sense that you're describing is, as you're connected with that, it gives you a sense of what guides your actions in terms of what feels good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's a kind of what I like about it too is it's like it's you can reconnect back into it through in a way through almost remembering what it was like in the body to feel that sense of standing. Let's say like oh now I can standing in one's own values.
Mm-hmm.
That feels different from hiding and not wanting to know.
Yeah.
There's almost like a body memory or some sense inside of how you
Yeah.
you can reconnect with it almost just by feeling your feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I do that when I'm feeling nervous about expressing myself in a context. Okay, let's just and I reconnect with it, and now I can speak this and be prepared to be shot down
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Normally I'm not, but being prepared.
Being prepared. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, that physicality of the experience. This is not just an abstraction.
yeah, exactly.
This is really something where your whole being is involved in that.
Yeah,
and you
that's right.
anticipate it with your being, and because you're aware of what it can do in your body, you can just confront it with your whole body mind so that you can really truly stand up.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah. Now, so obviously, we're also talking about manageable steps as opposed to, say, confronting tanks and guns and, or so in a way, how is it that you know, or what's your experience of feeling, well, this is a step I can take versus this is too much?
Mm. Yeah. How do you know that? I guess it's some kind of feeling into the whole context of this body in this life and all that it has to, have a family, have other responsibilities, and have a geographical location. I can't get to the tanks in that Syria, or so what can I do now here? So there's some sense of like allowing that to be enough and not getting and feeling for what's happening somewhere else. I'm not pushing that away, but like the step that I can do here and now kind of feels. If I check in with myself, that's where there's some knowing about what would feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it's hard to describe it, but yeah.
So I'm hearing that sense of, in a way, the description of being grounded in the reality of who you are and where you are.
That's right.
So, I'm a person, one person, not an army. I'm living where I am.
That's right.
I can do this or that. And so, in a way, if I start imagining myself fighting, all that's happening in a war, in an army, and it's manifest that I can't do it. And so coming back to, in a way, pushing the voice in you that might say, hey, you have to do this, it's important, with, it's overwhelming, and if I go there, I lose myself, or something like that.
Yeah.
Did I hear
That's
you?
right.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. What kind of what I'm reminded of now is something we explored at the Focusing Conference in our sort of group exploring this, and a kind of teaching that I came across of, everyone has their kind of medicine for the world. There's a sort of native tradition. So what is your medicine? This is my reflection that I come to again. What is my medicine for the troubles of the world? Let's say, well, not just the troubles, but that's particular. It's unique. It's not the same as this person who might be going and, I have friends of mine who've driven out to Calais in France and helped the refugees. He has a life in a context that allows that. Okay, well, what am I going to do here now? Okay, I can listen more carefully to my family. I can give some money to that project, and I can speak to people who speak to people about that and say, oh, there's this going on, would you support it? There's so many things I can do here and now. And but yeah, what's my medicine? I suppose what's my gift for this life, for this world? Something like that. That gives me a sense of, oh, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to be some kind of warrior, savior of the whole world. I can just work and refine my offering this offering. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps me. Supports not being overwhelmed, because there is so many routes we could take, and there's so much to do. You couldn't possibly do it all, could you? Even if you were an army, you'd still have to find, your own offering. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, it goes from medicine in the sense of how do I cure the world, to what is the offering that I'm able to give.
Yeah, that's right. Which is, I guess, it is a kind of medicine in a broader sense, but that's right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm realizing as I said it that way that I misquoted what your sense of medicine was, because that offering is a medicine. So I just wanted to make the difference between, an offering that you can actually manifest without being overwhelmed.
That's right.
Versus that sense of, me versus the ills of the world, and I simply, I'm going to freak out,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I'm reminded of a talk that I went to by, I guess a teacher of mine called Mac McCartney. He's a speaker and writer, lives not far from here. But he talked about, that the world needs activists, and it needs people who fight for change, but it also needs, dreamers and poets and musicians, speakers, storytellers. It needs all that too. So this again, phew. I can participate in this in a way that makes sense for me and my body and my life. I don't have to feel I'm not doing it because I'm, not out there on the streets the whole time.
Yeah. So the world needs activists, but it also needs poets, and musicians, and as I'm hearing this, I want to, certainly what resonates for me is that sense of, it's almost like there's an internal dialogue that says, hey, if you're not doing more, given the situation of the world, if you're not, going all out, then what you're doing is meaningless and you're not doing enough. And exactly, that's a kind of pushing back that voice and says, I give in my own way and there is room for me and what I'm doing is okay. And negotiating in a way that plays with the world. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And that, and that feeling of like not doing enough, or it's like it's sort of pushing back that voice, but it's sort of hearing the real care underneath it. Like some part of me really wants to make a difference, and like so, but allowing that making a difference to come from somewhere connected, and sort of embedded in my life, rather than some idea of what that might look like. What does that mean here? To act from a kind of a person connected in this world, in my life, and contributing to it. What does that look like?
Yeah, because it would be very easy from that place to lose yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And to get to a sense of you're not enough.
Yeah, that's right. You're not enough, and what's this sort of familiar feeling I used to get a lot of well, I guess it's overwhelmed. It's too much, so I may as well just ignore it all. So that's so familiar. sense. So yeah, so moving beyond that also.
So, in a way, what we're talking about is that the ills of the world are so strong that it's very easy to get caught in a spiral of feeling overwhelmed with the sense of you're not enough, you have to do more and you're not enough.
Yeah.
And of finding that place where we don't get overwhelmed in order to be able to be effective.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think for one part of that is actually allowing some of the feelings to come through, allowing like some of the grief, the grief that's there around what's happening to our planet, to so many people in the world. So kind of like allowing ourselves to touch it, and that's kind of painful too. Like I resist something and you resist that, but then you touch it, and it's like okay, that it feels like it becomes some kind of fire, actually, some fuel, or so. But you have to touch it. You have to choose to touch that kind of grief. Let's say.
Yeah. Because once we just realize that we can't solve, the problems, all of it. Our impact is relatively limited. Comes that grief. And you're talking about staying with it and touching it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so what's it like? I mean, obviously it's hard to describe this kind of situation, but just to give a sense of it.
What's the grief like to me? Or what's Well, you see, one sense of it right now is like it's not mine. It's not just mine, because I have my sadness about what's happening in the world. But there's a kind of collective awareness, isn't there? I sense. So many of us have on the edge of our awareness that what we're doing to our planet, what we're doing to each other, is not all of it, but a significant amount of it is really not okay. Our relationship with the planet, with the land, with each other. Based on is kind of, can't think of the right term, but not one of respect and love. It's one of abuse or just taking, or so and so once feeling that is like there's a sense of loss or something, or grief. It's hard to express it, but and it feels big. It feels bigger than me, and it feels bigger than even the community. It's a big thing.
So I'm hearing a very powerful thing there, that there is, of course, what we would expect is that sense of grief for, the damage that's being done. But I'm also hearing something about, in a way, as we get into this grief, the sense of no longer just taking it personally, because it's a sense of it's not just about me. And I think I heard you say something about you're not alone in feeling that.
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
In a way, as you realize that, in a way, you're no longer alone with the sense of this is happening. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, that's important. That's right. So not being alone in this is an emerging strand of this whole journey for me. Of connecting with other people who feel the same, who feel that there's something fundamentally wrong that we need to address. Connecting with speakers or writers who express the same thing. There's a writer called Charles Eisenstein, and he talks about like the age of separation. That's what where everything is something we can just market or commodify or sell, and we've been in this model for so long. It's like, oh wow, he's got it. He understands what we're. And this is it's unsustainable. It's damaging and unsustainable. This way of relating to the world, and it's so affirming and refreshing, and he feels this sense of it too. and so do lots of people who read his, read his stuff. So yeah, gathering with people and connecting with people who feel the same.
Yeah.
It's so important part. It's such an important part of this. Yeah.
So, in a way, as we're confronting something so amazingly huge as what's happening to the world, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and traumatized by it. And certainly one way to counteract that is to feel more the sense of connection that there is with people who are feeling similarly, are wanting to do something about it. And that sense of connection is a countervailing force to how easy it would be to be overwhelmed by it.
Totally, yeah, exactly, yeah. And practically, of course, we can do much more together than we can as a single person. But even to see on that kind of level of how you were describing it, it counteracts that. The ease of which it can, we can get overwhelmed. Yeah.
So that, of course, we're getting together in groups for practical reasons because we can get more in groups. But part of it is as a way to be in a more sustainable mode. To not be like the little old story of the little Dutch boy putting the finger, in the hole in the dike to stem the catastrophe, but to have a sense that there's a whole group that we're part of.
Yeah, totally. That's right. Yeah.
So what does it feel inside to make that shift? Just that experience.
Yeah, for me, it's more still emerging. It's still, rather than feeling like I've made the shift, I'm sort of making the shift to realizing that. Yeah, and that feels. So yes, that feels good. It feels right. It feels kind of spacious and like collecting a clan or something. That's too specific, but like, oh yeah, there's other people here. It feels supportive. It feels good. It feels also more manageable somehow. Like I'm not carrying all this by myself.
Yeah. So that sense of making the shift from being small me confronting the enormity of the catastrophe to I am part of this tribe, I'm part of this group that is gathering and is where there is a sustainability that's building up from getting that sense of togetherness.
Yeah, that's right. Togetherness, and there's another. Yeah, there's more. There's more to it than that. There is togetherness, but there's more, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But
so let's just stay with that. These are great moments of there's a more. I can't quite put the finger on it, and instead of maybe looking for a specific word to kind of describe what might come up in staying with this more.
Yeah. Something about belonging comes here, the word belonging, and something about feeling empowered. That's right. And I'm remembering an evening I went to in my local town. It was a kind of talk and a gathering around this theme. But yeah, so it was the sense, I belong here, but also we can do something. Like it's not all lost, So that's and that feels different. The feeling like I can't do anything and it's all lost. It's quite different.
Yeah.
So something about empowering is gets there.
Yeah. So that sense of I can't do anything, all lost, and hey, and I almost feel that sense of spaciousness coming in. Or of grounding, of opening up, of that instead of that nervous energy, but I'm not alone with it, and I belong. I'm part of a group, and maybe we can do something, and so that sense of in a way more calm, and in that face of threat.
Yeah. And for me, this group is just to make it clear. It's sort of not really like about. It's something very broad. It's something specific locally, perhaps my friends and collections of people who I gather with. But also, there's a sense of a group of people in the world, like the writer I mentioned, Charles Eisenstein, and all the people that follow him, and I can name some other people. But so like there's a sense of growing awareness of what's happening in the world, and the growing sense of it's not right. We need to change something. Something is fundamentally out of kilter, and so I feel I belong to that community, if you could call it a community.
Yeah. So it's not like having being a card-carrying member of a specific organization.
Exactly.
But having that more diffuse sense of being part of a broader community, and what occurs to me then in a way, coming back to what you were saying at the beginning and expressing yourself more. In a way that whenever we express ourselves in some way or another, we are, in effect, supporting others who are part of that broad, diffuse community.
That's right. Yeah. And if we speak our truth, it enables other people to do that more too. It's there's something very profound about that, sharing what's really true and what's deeply valuable. And how it affects the world. So,
Yeah. So that sense of sharing what is true, what is valuable, standing for our values, standing for what's important.
That's right.
And that sense that it's going to be resonating with other people, with kindred spirits.
Exactly. Yeah. I like that term. Yeah, exactly. Kindred spirits. That's what it matches it well. That's right.
Yeah. So that feels like a good place to end. I just want to check if you have something else you might want to add.
Yeah, it feels complete. That feels good. Yeah, I can. There's enough there. Feels good.
Thanks, Manju.
Thank you. Great.